We are live. Yeah. So, hello friends, welcome back to this yet another stream of Game Devs Assemble. Today, I have with me a very special guest that I personally look up to a lot, Mr. Vishal Gondal. Welcome to the stream. And yet again, we are joined with Shubham and Harsh. So, we are going to have a lot of fun in today's stream. I just want to quickly, mention one fact that I'm a huge fan of Vishal sir. I've been following his work ever since I was interested in game development because he was one of the few people in the industry that took the initiative to set up game development in India. Of course, back in the early days of gaming, when Nazara Technologies, Dhruva Interactive, and India Games were born. So, Vishal sir, welcome to the stream and thanks a lot for doing this for us. For those little number of people that don't know you, can we have a small introduction about yourself and then we can take it from there?
Hey again, hi, thanks, Nikhil, and good to meet you, Shubham and Harsh. I mean, my introduction is not that great. I think while I did make a games company way back in the early or late 1990s, right now I am wearing multiple hats. I run a company called Goki, which is gamifying the world of healthcare. Uh, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. But separately, we also started a new games called Encore Games, and later on, we also got Dot 9 Games as part of our team. And right now, we are attempting a launch of our new game, 4G Domination. As you know, 4G series has had a few titles before, but in true gaming style, we are just leveling up. So what started with what started as a single player game has now reached a decent level, I would say, over the last few years. In fact, today itself we've announced another beta test of the game as we prepare for launch. uh, my journey has been living a life as a game and a gamer itself, where I always look at challenges and opportunities, challenges and all the hurdles which come up as opportunities to level up. I am a college dropout. I started coding games when I was in school, so this is a passion and not really a business. I don't do this because it's a business. I do this because I love playing and making games, and it happens to be business. And that's again been a common theme of everything I do. uh, in the past, I have seen a lot of MBA types looking at reports and trying to, create gaming companies after they read those reports which talk about X billion-dollar game market in India and so on. And we all know that those reports are absolutely far away from the truth. We know where the gaming industry today is. From a local India perspective, there is hardly any gaming studios in India who's making money. Most of that is directly or indirectly going to China, as we all know. So today, a part of the reason I'm here, Nikhil, is you are doing an amazing job to promote the gaming industry and to promote awareness about the gaming industry.
Yeah,
I always say that you need 1,000 games for one game to succeed.
true.
In India, we totally have maybe 4 or 5 games, and then we are saying that why are Indian games not succeeding?
Yeah,
Because you don't have that kind of a success rate. Uh, any entertainment related business is a business uh, as they say, hits. It's a hits driven business. So out of, let's say, 1,000 movies which are made in India across everything, Bollywood and South Indian movie industry, etc., only a small percentage of them become hits or super hits.
yeah,
Similarly, only when we will see, if not thousands but hundreds of games being made in India, we will see one or two or five of them uh, breaking out and making those, becoming super hits.
yeah,
uh, what our expectation is very very poor. I think most people just think that, oh, because Indus or us or whoever has made one game, it should be a hit. That's not how the law of averages work. You have to be extremely lucky to have a first game and have it as a hit. So
yeah.
it's a tough job, and we all are, as game developers, need to know that. And I have seen this for a long long time. I coded my first 3D game called Yodha. If you Google it, you will see way back in the year 2000, almost 25 years back. It was the first PC game of India. We actually had, if you see the box, you will see, yeah, that's how the box was.
Wow.
This is the year 2000. We used a gaming engine, which was like a Doom Quake style engine. Um, and interestingly, the way we made money was really funny in this game. Uh, we got Pepsi to underwrite the entire development cost. So
Wow.
Pepsi, so in the game there was a Pepsi placement. So whenever the player used to get a little tired, they could go and power up was a Pepsi logo.
Nice.
And we also made a music video. You can see that music video there. This was the first time ever in India a music video was produced to
What
actually promote a game. And this is year 2000, guys, 25 years back.
Wow.
a-
So the model for me always was that we need to somehow figure out a way to get the cost of development underwritten by someone
Hmm.
so that whatever revenue we generate is profit. That
Yes.
was one of my ideas. And whether it was 4G or later on when we made games for mobile phones, I remember in 2004 or 2003 actually, or two, I don't remember the year, mobile phones had just got introduced, and I told my investors that we'll be making games for mobile phones, and they thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
That was the time when mobile incoming call was 16 rupees.
Wow.
Yeah.
Outgoing call was 16 rupees. So people were not even making a call. They used to like think 100 times to make a call.
Hmm.
And what I talked about was people are going to make games, play games on mobile phones. We were lucky again that that time Nokia was launching a new device,
Okay.
their new phone. The first, it was called 7650, their first like WAP enabled phone, or I think 3110, I forgot the number. Um, and Nokia was desperately looking for games for this. And since we had the game development experience, they came to us and said, "Can you make games for us?" And again, I said, "Listen, it's going to cost us. Can you pay the cost of the game?" So they said, "Yeah, absolutely." But the best part was Nokia said, "We don't want to own the game. The game is yours. We are paying you the cost of development, but you own the game." So we made 11 games totally on the Nokia device.
Okay.
And you won't believe when the phone launched, the 7650, I think it is uh, this particular phone, when it was launched, it was a super hit phone. Yeah, this phone. It was a super hit phone in the world. It was the first color phone and all of that. And all the mobile operators, that time there was no app store. This is the mobile operator time. They all wanted games. So Nokia connected us to all the mobile operators, and we had 65 mobile operator contracts in the world, right from Vodafone to Verizon to Singtel. एवरी मोबाइल जो भी मोबाइल ऑपरेटर था वो हमको ढूंढ रहा था, क्योंकि
हाँ.
सबके पास ये फोन था जिसके
हाँ.
अंदर कलर स्क्रीन था बट गेम्स नहीं. एंड वी एंडेड अप मेकिंग millions of dollars on those 11 games as profit
Wow.
because the game development was already paid by uh,
Okay. Yeah.
itself. Anyway, sorry, I went into this rabbit hole, but uh, I'm sure we're going to have more discussions like this.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you are organizing this, Nikhil. I think people need to hear these stories, right? सबको
Absolutely.
लगता है कि कोई एक गेम बना देगा और वो सुपर हिट हो जाएगा and you make millions. That's not how the world works.
Absolutely, absolutely. And before we get started with the other part of the discussion, for those of you who are watching this stream for the first time, I want to introduce Harsh and Shubham as well. So, Shubham, over to you. Please start off with your introduction, and then Harsh, you can go ahead, and then we can take this forward.
Hey guys, this is Shubham from Mad Mantra. I run an indie game studio in India, in Pune, and we released this game called Kamla, which some of you might have already heard, and that's it.
So, and before I introduce myself, I just wanted to say something. So, Vishal, you said in the beginning that you have a very small introduction, and you basically gave us a lore like that all of us sort of dream to have in our game dev journey. So, I mean, very cool to hear that. So, I am Harsh. I am building a company called Vega Labs. We have built and published a few cricket games, and right now we are in the middle of exploring some AI games, AI apps to sort of figure out our next step as a company. Our games are still live, but we ended up sort of on the note that for the countries where our games are working, we are not able to make profits, and for the countries where we're able to make profits, the customer acquisition is too high. So we're sort of navigating the next bit of our journey at the moment. So
Fantastic. So with that introduction in mind, I just want to get started with a couple of my stories actually associated with you, sir. Because I've been following your journey quite extensively, right from the early 2000s all the way till 2010s and all. I think the first time we met was in 2013 on a panel discussion wherein you were alongside Alok sir and a couple of others. And before that, I would want to recommend one very interesting talk that you gave. I have that tab open over here. This Vishal Gondal at Unplugged 7, 10 Commandments to Entrepreneurs. I have seen this video I don't know how many times. And I truly appreciate and love the fact that you have articulated your journey so well. And your opening statement over there is you are a storyteller, right? And I think you've summed that up so well. So for those of you who have not seen this video, please do check out and take out 45 minutes of your time over the weekend and check this out. It's an amazing video. You'll get to learn a lot. And I have actually learned a lot from you as well. Because the first interaction that I had with you was extremely impactful for my rest of the journey. And I clearly recall this one story with you where I met you for the first time. And I asked you for your business card. And you said a simple statement, I don't have one. And that resonated me with so much that like how cool it is that in today's age and time the a business card is actually worthless, like you're just handing it out and probably someone might not even remember it. And I like followed that principle, and after that whenever I used to meet anyone I just gave them my contact number and exchange contacts directly, so that saved a lot of time. Another thing I want to highlight is that when you are running India Games, your official title was God in Chief. So, and you also were running a blog, which I was actively following. Unfortunately, it's not live anymore, right? So, do you want to talk a little bit about, why that specific title and what was that entire journey like?
No, I mean, listen, India Games was like the most expensive MBA I ever did, right? Because I never went to school. So the way I think is that all the mistakes I have done in my life was at India Games. And one of my principles is never repeat the same mistake twice. So uh, I love making mistakes, believe me. I want to always do new things and break things. But most of the time, I don't repeat the same mistake again. And I also believe that whatever I have done in the past is just a footnote on what I am doing to do in the future or what I am doing in the future. So while I know you are very excited about what I have done in India Games, but I don't really think of that as any major achievement because उस time पे कोई था नहीं. Even if any one of you, I mean, just the fact that you thought of gaming, you could have been successful. So I think at that point of time, I was extremely lucky. There were no Chinese games to compete here. The world was much more simpler. Of course, we had different problems. Nobody knew what a startup was. VC ko to bhuli jao. Matlab, we had to tell we are not a startup. Right now, it's ulta. We have to keep saying that we are a startup. So, so whatever I did in the past was okay. It was great. Uh, I think the only things I can tell you is that few things which I really learned uh, as part of the India Games journey is the most important is the team. I think, we always try and underestimate the importance of having a team, and not just a team. You need to have what I call the A team. Today, if you see most of the people who have worked in India Games at some point of the other are leaders in their own respective, either they have set up their own companies or they are already working in big gaming studios or they're doing something big, and that makes me very happy and proud because that also means that we were able to collect a team. And there was one mistake we made in India Games which I fixed in India Games myself. Is there was a time in India Games we were hiring a lot of people, and believe me, we only hired freshers. In fact, even today, if your designation or your education qualification says IIT or IIM, we don't even call you for an interview. It's not that you're not smart. It's just that the attitude required to, to be in a games company is very different than somebody who's IIT and those kind of degrees. So what happened is we had left the recruitment of these people to our HR managers. And the HR managers went to some colleges and they hired some 20, 30, 40 people. And you won't believe that the quality of those people, when they started working in the teams, was extremely poor. And that's when I realized that the biggest mistake we were making is we were letting uh, managers make hiring decisions. And I think that's the worst thing you can do in your company. If you are, maybe if you're 10,000 people, it's a different thing. But if you are a reasonably small startup, you are collecting the Avengers team. And you have to understand that Avengers correct karne ke liye, you have to be another Avenger to find the other Avengers. Uh,
Mhm.
so what we did was that as a rule, we created something called the DNA test, where the final interview of whoever was to be hired was taken by me.
Okay.
And if not me, then we had two, three other people part of who were part of um our management team who could take that final interview. And that itself solved a lot of the problems, because now we were ensuring that every person hired in was meeting the standards or the DNA uh, of the people who were really trying to build it. So from there to having, we also had some very poor hiring decisions. We had to let go of people. So we have done it all. So Nikhil, believe me, whatever I have said in the past, the rules have changed. None of them are applicable today. That's the only
Yeah.
thing I can tell you.
So, sir, are the 10 commandments still true?
Very frankly, I would say most of them are true, but the context of each one of them is different.
Right.
We are in a
Right.
very different world today than what was long time back. For example, I tell people that in today's world, there was this very interesting saying that the big fish eats the small fish. I'm sure you've heard it a million times.
Yeah.
But in
Yeah.
today's world, it is the faster fish which eats the slower fish.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you have to be the faster fish. It's not about your size. Deep Seek has just shown that how they could create with very limited resources.
It's like $5.5 million. Like that was
Exactly.
insane.
And what they have done is is exactly showing that they are the faster fish.
Yeah. Mhm.
Similarly, if you see what's happening across the world, I believe that capital actually, sometimes too much capital is a actual bottleneck for innovation. So we all think यार हमको शायद funding मिल जाए यार, funding से हम लोग ये कर देंगे. You only make more expensive mistakes by having funding. That's the only difference.
That's true.
Yeah. So, and I want to highlight one fact that Harsh has raised around, I have raised around, and that completely resonates with me. So, Harsh, do you want to share some story on this part? Like, what might be some of the expensive mistakes that you have done as a founder after raising?
To be honest, the context for, let's say, what we raised versus what, let's say, Vishal was talking about is pretty different, because we still raised a very small pre-seed round of around 300K. But still, that is still
Small,
money.
small amount.
I mean, if
It
you
might.
look at the startup context, then yes, it is a small amount. But yes,
Yeah.
obviously, I mean, that's still, I mean, but I would say that expensive mistakes was not something which we did, because we have tried very hard to be super frugal from day one. I mean, when we had a 2 year runway, we still made sure we did pay cuts, we did proper, like, we let people go if it came down to a point where we were not sure where we are going to be 6 months later. So that was not exactly the biggest problem. I think for us the biggest problem was very different. We were trying to spend less. Like at some points, I feel we should have utilized the capital we had. Some of our investors also told us the same, that sometimes it's okay to spend quickly in 6 months, but actually get those returns fast, rather than being very slow for 12 months and being happy that you saved capital. So,
Yeah.
like I said, a little bit of different context, but not really expensive mistakes. I would say we made uh, like like the opposite sort of a mistake of not really, for example, we spent so much time on organic. Like we went to colleges, we set up stalls, we got people to play against friends, and all of that seems awesome. I mean, I personally was really into this like thing that okay, I have to have organic traffic. Like people need to love the game for what it is. But end of the day, in today's age, did not really work at scale. Uh, and I think for testing games, for getting to early PMF signals, maybe it makes sense to do quick ads just to see how people are reacting. And once you know that the core thing is working, then maybe you can focus on organic. So that was like some of the things that happened. But I mean, you can.
Sir, I want to ask one question to you. So you are one of the few founders who have got a stellar exit, I would say, right? Back in 2015, 16, when India Games was bought out by Disney, you probably must have been on cloud nine. But India Games was your baby, and you had to part ways. I have seen that interview of you, where, like the last day wherein you were giving a speech. So what was that experience like, and how did it feel to get an exit from something that you started off, sir?
So, uh, like the exit, it's not really an exit, right? I think what happens is that, when you are still in school and college, your parents nurture you. But once you start working and at some point of time, you leave the house and set up your own family, uh, do your parents think that you're no longer the child? No, but there is uh, let's say that there is a difference, that you are so possessive about something. So I think that's what happens when you are a founder. You are like the mother to, and your company is like your child. But you have to understand that you have to let go of things, and that is difficult, especially for people who are doing it for the first time. And for me, it was that instance that it was difficult, because one part of me was like, listen, I can still work at Disney, and I can still become like a corporate executive and continue to run the company the way I want. But on the other side, my point was, listen, one part of the journey has ended. India Games will now can run on its own. And by the way, just to give you an interesting number, India Games generated the most amount of cash profits for Disney till they finally shut it down because they did not enter the smartphone games. India Games was the feature phone and mobile operator, the business which I
Wow.
had created. So it made massive profits for Disney. But Disney, as a strategy, could not get into IP development, which is a different story. So all I can say is that that it is not easy, and no founder can say that I was really happy about it. And as far as money is concerned, believe me, money is like a score in the game. You are not playing for that. Yeah, you're playing for the fun of it. So money is a outcome, it is not a destination. And while the money was good, and I'm not saying that it was not good, but that was not what we were not doing this ki hum log, we'll become rich, was not. If anybody does anything saying that this I am going to rich by doing this, is going to be disappointed.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But just because the journey is so difficult that if you're not into it, you will eventually burn out and you will give up. And I remember this one line that you said in the Ten Commandments video is that you would have done this even if someone would have not paid you, right? So I think that's the level of passion that you need to bring to any business to survive in it. And so here I want to borrow your thoughts on, you started off in the mobile space, and right now me and Shubham, we are building for PC and console in the hardcore segment. So what do you think is the current landscape for such hardcore games? And if you were to give some piece of advice to me, Shubham, or anyone who wants to pursue hardcore games, what would that be? Should we be ambitious enough? Should we measure our steps? What are some things that we should be looking at?
See, all I can tell you is that whether you are building hardcore game, whether you are building mobile game, whether you are building console game, the one and only one thing is quality expectation of consumer. Because the consumer, the same user, is playing the most high-end mobile games for free, made by Supercell and PUBG and Tencent. The same users are playing the most incredible games on Steam. The same users are playing FIFA, and the same. So So the consumer today has access to the best of the best in the world. So if you are creating a product which is not the best, the consumer won't come to you. So that is the simple answer to whatever you do. There is a huge market in console, but people are playing such incredible console games that if your game is not as good as any of that, they are not going to play it. Look at the example of Mekong game, Mekong, right? Sorry, I'm forgetting.
Wukong.
Wukong.
Yeah.
The quality, people are not saying कि ये सस्ते में बना है game. They are saying, oh my God, look at the quality of this game and the quality of the experience. Similarly,
Yeah.
just look at the Indian consumer. We all have used WhatsApp. We have all used Instagram, which is why none of the Indian WhatsApp clones, there were हजार messaging apps which had come. If you remember, वो Hike Messenger, ये Messenger, वो Messenger, कितने आए थे messengers? Don't Wink Messenger. We don't even remember the name. Similarly, so many clones came of TikTok when TikTok was banned. Not even one survived because Instagram had such a superior product. And similarly, TikTok has beaten every other app in America because of the quality of TikTok. So when I look at games and when I look at any products, the simple question for you is that if your audience does not like it, it will not work. Whatever be the platform.
Yeah. No amount of advertising can save a bad product, let alone a game, just a bad product.
Yeah, of course.
So, I want to ask an offbeat question. What is it with red? Like, when I was passing on the thumbnail to you, we had that T-shirt of yours changed to red as well. So, is there any interesting story behind that?
I think it is my favorite color. But more importantly, I think the way I decided to take on the color red and is I wanted to remove as many decisions from my life which I take on a daily basis. So right from the color of my clothes to the food I eat, I don't have breakfast. I only have black coffee, for example. Even my lunch, 90% of the time is the same. So one of the things I realized is that if you see, we are all in the business of cognition. We are all using our brains, and uh, the more you use your brain to make decisions, the more if you have something called willpower, it wears out your willpower. So the way to think about it is when you wake up early in the morning and you decide how exercise karna hai, 90% of the times you will be able to do first thing in the morning because the willpower is the highest. But by the time it is evening, your willpower is low and you're like, chalo chodo, kal karte hain. So how do you maintain that same willpower in the evening or the night as you had in the morning? To do that, you have to reduce the cognitive ability of your brain for taking all these decision making. So the way to think about it is you have a processor, and every time you are making the processor make a choice, it is consuming your memory, and बाद में cache is full by the end of the day.
Yeah.
So that's how it started. But also separately, I'm also a very big follower of Neem Karoli Baba, and I found out from another person recently who also wears red that this was actually the color of Hanumanji. So maybe there is a connection somewhere there of red.
Yeah.
But it started as just my favorite color. There's nothing other than that.
So,
Lovely.
Vishal, one thing that I wanted to ask regarding the last topic we were discussing about, like the product you're talking about, it needs to be good, etc. And also circling back to the original point of India needs to make multiple games. I mean, one thing I've observed is that most folks in India, they probably build something because they like what they're building. And it's their passion that, okay, I want to build a game on, let's say, XYZ theme, maybe on the Indian mythological theme or maybe XYZ theme. But the approach of building games which would, let's say, fit the market, or games that would probably work in the west, or games that would work globally, that approach is still a little missing, I would observe. For example, the Turkey model, Turkey is literally building games just focusing on the west, but they're not really caring about what exactly would work in Turkey. So how do you look at this landscape? Because for India to make those 1,000 games for one to work, the 1,000 games also need to target larger audiences, and they also need to target even in India, like even in India, if you're making a game about a particular mythological figure, you're already making sure that 80% folks won't play the game for that particular mythological figure. Versus if you build something else, then maybe the next 20% will play and the rest 80 won't. So that fragmentation sort of, I think, is happening because Indian game developers are building for passion rather than building for, selling the game or distribution. I mean, just general in general, what are your thoughts on this?
See, let's take the example of OTT, a
Okay.
field which is also similar, right? Netflix, Amazon.
Hmm.
When people first saw OTT and there were shows like Narcos, incredible show,
Hmm.
but does not appeal to India. It did work, but a very small audience was there for India. But then people started making local shows.
Hmm.
And, today there are a million examples of TV shows now or TV series which are made on for Indian OTT channels. But you have to see one thing, the quality of production.
Okay.
Because the consumer has seen Netflix and they are seeing all these global shows,
Right.
if the quality of production is not good,
Hmm.
it is not going to work.
Right.
The second thing is, I always believe that gaming is a portfolio approach.
Okay.
That if you are just going to make one game and expect it to be a hit, it's like indie. एक ही मूवी बना के डायरेक्टर हिट बना सकता है, वो कभी बाय लक हो सकता है, but everybody has become a studio, right? You have multiple titles, so you basically need to make sure that you take a few bets and you need to be tactical about the bets in terms of what kind of content works.
Right.
And then if you look at Turkey, I'm sure they have studied their market very well and they have found the gap in the market and they have been able to fulfill it. So I think it's really about that.
But I mean, again, if you look at this, then Turkey is looking at the market, finding a gap and trying to fill it. Versus overall in India, it is more about, I want to make a game on this particular mythological figure, or I want to sort of portray this story in my game. Is what I have been seeing. Obviously, there is a pocket of different kinds of folks everywhere, but in general, that is how it is for a lot of indie studios in India. So, how do you look at the approach of building because of being inspired about something versus looking at the market and then filling a gap?
See, that's the point, right? You never know what is going to succeed at the end of the day.
Okay, so you're basically saying that okay, we try multiple approaches, whatever it takes, one of those could work out.
Nobody knows. I mean,
Right.
if you knew what is going to succeed, then it's a different thing, right? So I think uh, the only thing I'm trying to talk about is quality.
Of
Now,
course.
the game may or may not work is a different question, but the quality expectation
Is high.
is extremely high. So,
Make-
so whatever you are doing, so what is going to effectively happen is there will be 1,000 games or 100 games with high quality, and something may break out. Now, we don't know what that something is. Nobody
Right.
knows, right? So
This
that's
actually
the whole point.
Right. I mean, this actually even ties into financing such games because let's say I am building a game that is focused on my inspiration about something in India, then raising money for it is super hard. But if I go to someone and tell them that this is the market, here is a gap, the market is high LTV, so we can easily make money, and then I want to build a game there. So it's comparatively easier to raise for that kind of a game. So I would then say, based on what you're saying, that the market has not been explored at all where people are building passion projects which are of quality. So
Harsh, I want to slightly interject you here over here, adding a small story that I remember of India Games. Sir, sorry, I'll circle back to your past days of India Games because I think there's a great value for people who are watching this now. Harsh, India Games was the first company, first gaming company from India to get the license of Spider-Man. So there's a very interesting story, Vishal sir, that you mentioned about this. Do you want to highlight that story and what were some of the moments? Because I remember back in the day, you mentioned the statement that you put every last dollar in the company in acquiring that license. So taking that risk, believing in an IP that was not Indian inherently, and then what was that journey like? Sir?
So I think before I enter that, let me just finish the question which Harsh was talking about, and then we'll jump
Yeah,
to this. So, Harsh, do you want to just
sure.
complete your question?
Yeah, so what I was trying to say is that the financing model. So I mean, simply put, if we are looking at a portfolio approach where we are trying to build all kinds of games to see what works, the kind of games which people are building for passion based projects, those have never had the chance to evolve to that high level. So that has become a sort of a challenge for people to even venture into, because for building games where you are seeing a market gap, it's very easy to raise, versus building games like on a mythological figure in India, harder to raise because a low LTV market. So that sort of was what I was trying to tie into, that how would that work, because in the end of the day, even if it is a portfolio approach, Indians are still going after the second kind of games. So it's very hard to break the quality barrier, because budget becomes a problem when you're not able to raise, and you're not able to raise because you can't sell a convincing story, because the game you're building is not for solving a market problem. So that sort of a circle that's sort of happening for Indian developers.
See, very frankly, I don't think that there is a lot of money required to build a good game.
Okay.
Um, I think there is a myth that, oh, you require a lot of money. A lot of game studios are indie who succeed. A lot of indie studios succeed. So typically, if you are, and today with AI and all the tools which are available, you can very easily create a decent quality game. There is so many assets available. I mean, you all know that, there are so many developers available online. A lot of models can be developed across the world. There are Ukrainian developers somewhere,
Yeah.
Polish developers. So today, what you would require, you a 100-man team can be done with 5 people with a very good outsourcing pipeline.
Hmm.
Similarly, in today's world, uh, it won't be very difficult for you to raise 50, 100, $200,000.
Hmm.
That's not as difficult. And I
Yeah.
don't see why anybody would need anything more than that to do a, let me say, decent version one of the game.
Of course, that is for sure. I mean, that is more than enough to prove your game in the market.
And see, gaming is now more a art and a science at the same time.
Hmm.
If you are able to prove that your game has retention,
Hmm.
your day 7, day 30, day 1 retention numbers, and then you are able to show that there is engagement, and that's what everybody does, right? They launch their game in one small territory, do experiments. So
Hmm.
there are so many tools available today for you to figure out whether your game is working or not working,
Right.
that there is no reason why you can't be successful.
Yes.
So if you look at Ludo King, for example, they have not raised a single rupee from outside.
Right.
uh, I remember, Vikas, who's the founder of Ludo King, he had wrote an email to me. I don't remember. I think 2000, early 2000s ki baat hai. He was in Patna. He
Okay.
sent me a game file saying that he has created a game. He was an indie developer. Like at home in Patna, he had created a game. And looking at that game, I hired him on the spot. So actually, I was the one who got him to Mumbai from Patna.
Nice.
And he was extremely passionate. So he was making games at home.
Nice.
So the point really is that if you think that मेरे को capital मिलेगा तभी game बनेगा, that is a myth.
Of course,
You
yeah.
can create a game and then show traction and go to, there are enough places where you can raise funding
Right.
for that. But
Right.
most people का problem ये है कि मेरे को $5 million चाहिए, मेरे को $10 million चाहिए game बनाने के लिए. That is not a easy thing.
Right. No, makes sense. Makes sense. Just wanted to hear your thoughts. That's it. Completely agreed on the point.
But talking about the Spider-Man story, Nikhil, yeah, again,
Yeah.
see, the the point for every company is that at some point of time you have to take a big bet, or you have to bet everything you have, right? If you have to go to the next level. So if you remember, I told you the story of the 11 games we had. These 11 games were generic games like Tic Tac Toe, Tank Attack, Zapper. We had like, so we basically took generic games. We had a game called Chopper Rescue, where that chopper is going and you have one cloud and you have to avoid the cloud. So basically, think of all the generic games in the world, which was created into Java games. You may even find some of them online. Zapper and J2ME. They were all J2ME games. They were called. Yeah, this Chopper Rescue, by the way. Yeah, that's one of our games. Wow. So this was a game which made crores of rupees for us, by the way, at that time. So
Wow.
we saw the success of it, and I already had global contracts with operators.
Mhm.
And we saw that जहाँ हम लोग एक गेम पे $100,000 बना रहे हैं, वहाँ I can make $1 million on a game. The only thing was we needed a recognized character. The mobile operator said, "Get me a recognized character." So that's when we created a list of recognized characters. We said Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse, all these names. And we said, you know what, if we have to bet something, let's figure out. And that's when we went to Marvel Comics and we made this big bet. And there's a very interesting story behind this. This game was only licensed to us for less than 1 year.
Oh.
And the reason was that Spider-Man license is the most complicated license in the world. That license is with the Sony Pictures. They have the license for Spider-Man, the movie character. And Marvel has the license of the comic book. So this is the comic book Spider-Man. And then there is the other Spider-Man, which is the movie Spider-Man. So there was the Spider-Man 2 movie releasing. And that release was 1 year later. And ek saal pehle, what they said is, we can license you Spider-Man, but we only have 1 year. And it is a very short amount of time for you to, create and develop and distribute the game and make money. So basically, the problem or the opportunity was that there was very short amount of time. So what we did was a hack. Even without having the Spider-Man license, we started making the game. मैंने बोला तुम लोग game बनाओ, I will get you the license. So the team, even while we were negotiating with Marvel Comics, the game was already getting developed in the studio. Then Marvel first said, "कि अरे तुम कौन है? We'll not give you." They didn't know who we were. But somehow we convinced them, and they asked us basically crazy. They asked us a few crores. I think it was about that time about 1.5 crores for a 1 year license to pay for Spider-Man, and that was the only total amount we had in our bank. Basically, usse bhi kam hoga actually. So we said that, listen, if our Chopper Rescue can make $100,000, Spider-Man should at least take $1 million. That was our but problem ये था कि गेम बना के लॉन्च करके ग्लोबली डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करना था 1 साल में. And according to Marvel, game development and distribution and approval में 6 महीना लग जाएगा. So they were saying that you don't have enough time for the game. But anyway, to cut a long story short, we gave them that money, bet everything, and the day they signed the license, we showed them the game the next day. The game was already ready.
Nice.
So they were completely mad because, ye kya ho gaya? I said, no, we were already making the game. So within weeks, the game got approved and we launched the game. And this game made us $2 million in revenue, $2 million in 1 year.
Awesome.
And this was one of the, and you can, there's a lot of articles about it, there are stories about it, but I think this was an example where we exactly knew what was the gap. The market needed IP. Spider-Man was the best IP, and only we could deliver that in that short amount of time. So it had a number of threads going on. And by the way, we were also the first company ever in India to license a digital character into India. So when we first went to RBI, हमको approval नहीं मिल रहा था पैसे भेजने के लिए, because ये मतलब क्या कर रहे हैं Spider-Man का क्या, we had to, like today so it's still a little known that you license characters. This was a licensing of a character deal. It was very complicated to explain because you require RBI permission to send money and all that. So it was a complete nightmare. This had a lot of firsts, including the first ever international license which was done into India. So it was fun.
Cool. So what happened after 1 year? I mean, did you sunset the game? Did they take down the game from
The funny
everywhere?
thing is, after 1 year, Spider-Man 2 वाले हमारे पास आ गए कि हमारे पास गेम नहीं है, हमको लाइसेंस करो. So we
Oh,
actually also gave
uh,
the game to Spider-Man because Sony didn't have the game.
uh,
So we actually milked that game multiple times, and that's it was a side-scrolling game. Basically, think of it like
nice.
a side-scroller,
Uh,
which had multi-layers and all that. It was a very good side-scrolling game. So we had the side-scrolling engine, which we had built. This was all Java, right? This is all 2D. The game size used to be in kilobytes, not
hmm.
megabytes. So we had cracked the side-scrolling engine, and then the same engine pe we built many games. We got after this we went to Hollywood. We licensed Scorpion King, Predator, Day After Tomorrow. I mean, you name it. I think we licensed some 30 or 40 big Hollywood brands. Bruce Lee was licensed by us. Garfield was licensed by us. So what we did is, once we got the model, we doubled down. Yeah, that's the Bruce Lee game you can see. That was the India Games Bruce Lee title. Then we did games in India with Gajini. By the way, Gajini game in India interestingly made 2 crores in revenue. I think
Wow.
producers went mad. I don't think producers ने कभी भी सोचा था कि Gajini could do almost 2 crores in revenue, and that's the kind of revenues we did. Similarly, we did Ravan. So Bollywood again, I don't even remember. So we had actually 3 studios within India Games. We used to call them Surya, Chandra, and Tara.
Okay.
The 3 studios. So Surya used to focus on building games for the US. Chandra used to focus on games for India, and Tara was our they were doing R&D and 3D, and they were looking at the futuristic stuff.
Wow.
Europe and the futuristic stuff. And Studio Chandra was responsible for all the Bollywood titles. They were dealing with all the local stuff. So we did a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with this.
So, when I was searching for Spider-Man, I saw one thumbnail over here and a very old interview with Rishi sir, Rishi Oberoi sir, and he was talking about the development journey, and I think he was the person who put together the Spider-Man demo, right?
Yeah.
So, do you want to talk a little bit about him, because right now he's running Photon Tadpole, and he was someone who was a critical part of India Games. I'm sure he mentioned explicitly in one of the interviews that he did with me is that he was very in two minds about how will he make that Spider-Man game. So do you want to talk a little bit about that journey? How was it working with him and that entire journey of his?
No, listen, Rishi, Srini, all these have been, we have grown up together, right? The way to think about it. We were all similar age. It's not like Rishi was too old or I was too young. We were all similar ages. The only difference was I was the CEO and Rishi had joined literally as, I think it was his first job after college, India Games. So, I always have a belief, and I always tell it to everybody else, right? That always have more confidence than capability. And most of the people's problem is that उनके पास capability बहुत है पर confidence कम है. And I think I was able to augment my confidence to a lot of these people, right? So, जो लोग बहुत ज्यादा पढ़ाई वढ़ाई करके आते हैं उनको ना थोड़ा अपना कॉन्फिडेंस कम हो जाता है, because they think there is a ceiling, right? They have been taught that ये नहीं हो सकता है या इसको इतना टाइम लगता है, right? That is people's notion. And I always, since in my world everything can happen yesterday, nothing should take time. And now with AI, while I'm talking to you, I should be able to code a game parallelly, right? That's the way I think. So I always look at everything as a glass half full. I'm always in the problem solving mode, while there are people who are always in the problem finding mode. Rishi was somebody who is actually very, very logical, very balanced. So we paired very well, right? And that was the best part about India Games, that we made a fantastic team. Different people had different kinds of, uh, different kinds of uh, uh, qualities which they brought together to make successful. A lot of times we always like people like us. हमको अपने जैसे ही लोग चाहिए जो हमारे जैसे ही सोचते हैं. but that's the recipe for disaster because you are then in an echo chamber. I think for us, whether it is Rishi, whether it is Deepak, I mean all the other amazing folks, we all came from different backgrounds and had our own things to contribute. So believe me, Rishi and everybody else were very scared कि ये कैसे होगा. But I was 101% sure that this is going to work, and it did work.
Yeah. So, sir, like as an entrepreneur, when you start off something, and especially something new in this space, right? What was your thought process like starting a company back in the late 90s, where technology was almost non-existent? There were not a lot of today, as you said, we are so privileged that we have ChatGPT. Even when I started, there was YouTube. But back in your time, when information sharing was almost non-existent, how did you tackle all these challenges? What, like, did you actually have to read through documentation? And I know your background, so you come from a tech background, although you've not pursued engineering officially, but you were responsible for coding some of these games, right? So you're the perfect example of someone who does not have a formal training for engineering, but solved a lot of technical problems. So what was that entire process like for you?
So believe me, the problems you have today are similar to the problems you had then. That time we were optimizing for 128 kilobytes. Now you are trying to optimize for 4 GB. That time the pixels were only 256. Now you are dealing with 4K pixels. So you always think that उस टाइम का प्रॉब्लम कम था या आज का प्रॉब्लम ज्यादा था. Everything is relative in life. At that point of time, the problems we had are equal to the same problems I have today. The problems are bigger, but my resources are also equally bigger. Today, I'm worried about getting a ping rate of, 50. That time, I was not worrying about ping rate. I was worried about download kitna time lagta hai, because downloading 1 MB file itself used to take like 20 minutes. So that time, the goal was how do you create the smallest JPEG file or J2ME file size, not the latency to tiny. So I always think that everything is relative. So I don't see that there was anything difficult or anything easy then, or it's anything difficult or anything easy now. It is the mindset which makes it different. And in my
Yeah.
case, like I said, I love having challenges because I think that they are an opportunity for me to level up. And during India Games, we had different kinds of challenges. And believe me, बहुत वाट लगी हुई थी, बहुत फटी हुई थी, पर बहुत मजा आ रहा था. And that is the बोलते हैं ना भावना, अगर आपकी यही है कि बहुत लगी हुई है, बहुत फटी हुई है और बहुत मजा आ रहा है, then you are on the right track. But अगर आपकी बहुत लगी हुई है और बहुत फटी हुई है और मजा नहीं आ रहा है, then there is a problem.
That's a very interesting statement that you've made. लगी हुई है, फटी हुई है, but मजा आ रहा है तो करते रहो. Those are words to live by. I think that is one commandment of that is one updated commandment of success. I would say. So, sir, are you okay with time?
Yeah, I think we can do probably 10 more minutes. Then I'll.
Sure. Sure, sure. So, sir, after India Games, you then started focusing on health, right? So, how was that transition from making games to then focusing on health tech with Goki, and what was that entire journey like? And what are your plans for the future now from here onwards?
So listen, people think that I am out of the gaming industry, but I am not. In fact, I feel Goki is actually a meta game. The whole idea of Goki is that you are playing the game of life. You are a player. We in fact call our users players. You have your own virtual avatar, and as you become healthy, you have a coach. You play with your coach, and the coach gives you instructions and data. And as you get those instructions and data, your level up improves. You start leveling up into our game, and as you level up, your avatar becomes younger. So think of Goki like a Tamagotchi. I call it like a virtual pet, where you are your own virtual pet. And the way to also think about Goki is that as you become younger, we partner with the insurance companies, healthcare providers to give you benefits. So just like a game, how you collect points, and you can go to a virtual store, and you can, there's a health store and all of those things. So the way we are designing and defining Goki is just like a video game. In fact, I would urge you to also check something called uht.xyz. We are currently in the process of launching our own healthcare token, which is called the Universal Health Token. So this is not only going to gamify health, but start rewarding you in the virtual token, which is hopefully going to get listed very soon. So you will now start unlocking uh, actual value of good health with UHT. And just like a video game where you make virtual currency, here you will end up getting a currency which is on the blockchain. So hopefully it will have value, and we have a whole leveling up system. So Goki, by the way, just to give you an interesting statistic, and I'll just give you one example of how we are completely cracking this world of healthcare. It's very difficult for people to reduce their diabetes level, something called HbA1c. बहुत difficult है लोगों के लिए, they do all kinds of things. So we launched a program with a partner where we said there is a game, 90 days you have to enroll, you have to give us your diabetes level at the start and at the end, you get points, everything is gamified. But the game ka end point tha, for every 1 point drop in HbA1c, you get 1 gram gold.
Oh.
So the concept was, you basically, and what you have to do a blood test, your blood sugar every day, do this. So we took all the behavior required for diabetes control, gamified it, and converted, said ki 1 gram of gold for 1 point drop in HbA1c. In 90 days, we on an average saw 1.8% drop, which is like, it is. And the other thing, normally people don't even test their blood glucose. It's average person tests it 0.6 times a month. Our paper player on the game was testing his blood sugar 9 times a month compared to 0.6. 0.6 say 9 times we were able to get people to test their blood sugar. We were able to, on an average, जो reduction 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 होता है, उसको हम लोग 1.8 तक लेके गए. So what we were able to prove was that healthcare is broken because of misaligned incentive. Today, it's really unfortunate that the money to be made in healthcare is by giving you more medicine and more tests and more operations and more surgeries. That is what the incentive is, right, to the system, which is why there are more people falling sick, because, incentive kidhar hai? We are all gamers, we know, right? What is the game? The game is, let's sell more medicines. Now we have turned that whole thing around, and we have told the person that the game is reduce your blood sugar and get 1 gram of gold.
Yeah.
And suddenly we are seeing outcomes. So when we saw that idea work, we said it makes a lot of sense for us to launch a token which creates value. So what we want to now do is start attaching real value to health behavior. And we believe, and we have some incredible partners already for this. And I believe that once the token launches, this is going to become the foundation of good health for the entire world. So the vision of Goki, by the way, is to become the World Health Organization of health. And we will fund it too, because I will have UHT, Universal Health Token. So I don't want to spend money on medicine. अभी क्या हो रहा है, WHO आपको medicine दे रहा है, वो medicine बांट के और medicine खा रहे हैं लोग. कोई healthy नहीं हो रहा है. Healthy होने के लिए you need to change behavior, and that can happen by creating an incentive layer and a gamification layer around good health. So that is the vision of Goki. So it's really fun, believe me, and there is no competition because everybody else is trying to play the other game.
Okay.
That how do I sell more tests and how do I do more surgeries?
Right.
This is actually so cool. I mean, from growing from a gamer to extending that concept to health tech, I think it's a very noble cause that you're doing, sir, and wishing you all the very best for this. And for those of you who are watching this, please visit uht.xyz, check out what Goki is doing, and please go after and enroll yourself into their programs as well. There is that band as well, right? I think the first time I heard about the band was in 2011, 13, 14, when I attended that talk, and it's great to see how far Goki has come and into making this into a proper successful business as well. I think I could go on and on,
And
and I would
I
love
think,
to
Nikhil, what
have
we'll do is we should maybe do a follow-up session. I'd love to talk more about what
absolutely.
we're doing at Encore Games and 4G.
Yeah, yeah.
I think
Done,
we
sir,
should
done.
plan that follow-up. But I think,
Yeah,
one of the things which I believe, and I think Nikhil is already doing it, and Harsh and Shubham, is as a community, we need to figure out a way to give back to the country and to other game developers. I think the
yeah,
problem right now is that India mein there is the crab mentality, right? Nobody is helping each other out. People, if I am successful, people are trying to pull each other down,
Mhm.
which is
yeah,
not the right way to think about this. Especially in the world of gaming, uh, we have to all succeed as an industry. So it is
Correct.
all about us working together, and not nobody's. If your game is successful, people are going to play your game, and more good games will be made. It's nothing to do. It's not and or.
Of course, of course.
yeah.
I
So I
mean,
first of all
yeah.
wish everybody all the best. And like I said, we need a lot more game developers. We need a lot more investments, and I think we need a lot more people who actually play games to make games.
Right.
That is true. That is true. Absolutely, sir. And yeah, definitely, I would love to do a follow up. We can revisit. We do these sessions every Friday.
Yeah. So maybe in the next
So
month or so, let's plan something.
done, sir. Done. Done. Absolutely. So, sir, thank you so much for joining in, and this was a great pleasure to have you on board. All those lovely stories about India games, and now with Goki, what you're doing. Wishing you all the very best, and thanks a lot for your
Thanks.
time,
Good
sir.
night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Nice to meet you. Bye.
Night.
Bye. Bye.
Yeah. All right. So, guys, that's about it for this stream. I'm sure you guys had a wonderful time learning about the things that Vishal sir was doing. Shubham, you are awfully quiet today.
Man, I was just listening to all this experience, and I was just
Yeah.
enjoying all this knowledge. I feel like it's
You
really,
do you want to talk a little bit about that? Like, what was your takeaway? Like, what were the learnings that
yeah,
you
man.
had?
For me, I didn't really follow the Indian game industry until maybe 2017, right? Before
Yeah.
that, I was just a gamer. I was not really interested in looking at companies or and what companies are there. And
Yeah.
when you was like doing the screenshot and showing India games, that's when I realized that, oh wait, I have played all these games when I was a kid.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's just interesting to see how it was actually evolving when I was just playing these games. Because for me, the actual interest in understanding what is going on in India came way, way later, about
Yeah.
2017 or 18.
Fantastic. And Harsh, thanks a lot for asking those wonderful questions. I think you had a really good bond with Vishal sir.
I
So what
have
we'll
a
do
bunch
is
of more questions. I mean, so whenever we do another session, I'll bring the list.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely. And in fact, like, since we are going to do this regular, we will call a lot of other game developer folks as well. So, for our friends who are game developers and want to join in the conversation, please do get in touch with me. Leave behind your comments, and we'll do this Game Devs Assemble stream regularly. We are enjoying this a lot. We've already done like this is our second or third? No, third, right? Or second? I don't know. Second stream, and we already have Vishal sir over here. So things are only going to get better, and we'll try to invite some more amazing people from the gaming industry and share such amazing stories as well. So with that in mind, that's about it for this stream. Thanks a lot for watching, whoever did, and we'll be is segmenting these into short videos as well. So make sure that you're subscribing to my channel to get all those videos. I hope you guys enjoyed this stream, and that's about it for this stream. I'll see you again in the next Game Devs Assemble stream. Until then, take care. And before you go to sleep, don't forget to brush your teeth. It's very important to take care of your teeth and your health.
Thank you,
So
Shakti
with that
Bhai.
in mind, with that in mind,
toothpaste
I'll
में
see you
game है.
in my in a क्या
क्या आपके टूथपेस्ट में गेम है?
क्या आपके टूथपेस्ट पे गेम है? Let's have that as a tagline for the next stream. All right, so guys, once again, check out Shubham's game Kamla. It's coming out very soon on 8th of February on mobile. It is already up there on Steam. Link is in the description for Mad Mantra's YouTube channel. And check out Vega Labs website. All the amazing apps that Harsh is developing are listed on the website. And wishlist Mumbai Gullies if you haven't. A lot of amazing information coming out about the game and the game coming out very soon as well this year. Although I don't have a release date still, but still keep waiting and I'll keep you posted and we'll see each other in another video, another stream. Until then, take care. Good.